Hey everyone, today we're looking at the poem Oh. It's on the screen, and there's a lot of notes here. You can see on this particular file that I have up. We'll be going through these notes. You know, annotations are a really good way to get engaged with poetry, something we've been talking about repeatedly during the semester, using annotations on all your literature when you read it. So I hope you'll be using annotations. They'll be good for writing your essay for, and they're going to be useful in the final exam because you can bring your printouts of the poems with your notes on them to the final exam, and they'll be very useful. So please be making these annotations, either from these videos or from what we discuss in class. Okay, let's start with the title. And you can see my note there to the right-hand side. Who says oh? Question mark. Kids. Yeah, does this indicate that this is going to be about kids? Is it going to be humorous? You know, like uh-oh kind of thing? Well, let's get into it and see. Now let's look at that first line and the vocabulary word right in the middle. You have to look up this vocabulary on poetry. I don't know how many of you know the word amble, but it's a particular kind of walking, a carefree, relaxed, happy kind of walking, and that helps set the tone for this poem. And you can see we've got two people walking, my girl and I. Now, who uses a phrase like that? My girl and I went to the movies. My girl and I, that's not young adults, I don't think. Probably wouldn't use that expression. So the vocabulary here, you can see my note to the left side, suggest youthful innocence. Maybe they're what? 12, 13, although these days 12 and 13-year-olds aren't innocent anymore. Too much of, sex floating around our environment in so many ways, as we've discussed in class. So children don't keep their innocence perhaps as long as they should, but that's another story. So we have my girl and I suggesting that youthful innocence, 12, 13 maybe. And then you have a country lane. Now, you get these country roads, not a lot of traffic, relaxed, perhaps green, summertime. They're walking down this country lane. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds really wonderful, actually. I wish we were there now. And then we get to line 2. We have moo cows. Now, there's an interesting vocabulary choice. Who says moo cows? Well, maybe some of you when you were much younger, like 3, 4 years old. I used it last week. No, I didn't. But it does also suggest the youthfulness of the speaker and that innocence that comes with that youth. Now we have chomping daisies. How many of you have ever sucked on a daisy stem? I guess people don't do that these days. You're all glued to your screens 24/7. But, sucking on grass stems, daisy stems, etc. That was something you could do back in the day. And you notice as we get further in, let's say line 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., we get what I often call the music of poetry. And that consists of, for example, alliteration. Most of you are familiar with alliteration from your high school studies. You know what that is, I think. That's the repetition of consonant sounds, like in line 3, you've got the S sounds, sweet, saliva, grass, stems. You hear all those S's. And you get to line 4, you've got the L sounds, look. And you have a she says, the says is another S, and crossing is another S sound. But you also now have the K sounds, those consonant sounds. So there's a lot of alliteration going on here in these lines. But you also have something else going on, and that is some vowel repetition, vowel sounds. We have a name for that. Let's see if I've got it written here. Yeah, under alliteration, you have the word assonance, and that's repetition of vowel sounds. So look in line 3, sweet, that double E sound. Green, there's another double E sound. And look, obviously the double O sounds are repeating. Choo-choo, the double O sounds there. Now, by the way, we mentioned in line 4 about the L sounds. Look at the L sound with light in line 5, and the L sounds are going to come into play even further. In fact, we've got a whole web of sounds that repeat, alliterations and various assonant sounds. So we have look, she says at the crossing, the choo-choo's light is on, and sure enough, right smack dab in the middle of maple dappled summer sunlight is the lit headlight. Now, so funny, okay. Now, do you hear the L sounds? Maple, dappled, summer sunlight, lit headlight. Lots of L's, okay. But we also have some M sounds. Middle, smack, maple, summer, just for example. And we do have some assonants here. You know that on smack and dab, those A sounds are the same. Okay. And then you have mapled, dappled, the A sounds are the same there. Summer, sunlight, lit, headlight, so funny. There's an S sound there, was so funny. And you have something else going on. That's a kind of interesting rhythmic pattern. Take a look at right smack dab. Now, you have 3 accented syllables in a row. Now, what do I mean by accented syllables? Well, take the famous Shakespeare soliloquy or Hamlet soliloquy in the Shakespeare play Hamlet, where he says to be or not to be. That is the question, etc., etc. Now, to be, you have an unaccented syllables. Maybe I can write on here. Let's see if I can with this thing's working. To be, I'll write there. My pen isn't very good here. To be, B is accented. The to is unaccented. To be or not. And you have a repetition of the same pattern. Or not to be. Okay, so there you have unaccented followed by accented, an unaccented followed by accented, and the unit is repeating. Now, by the way, we call these units that work together feet. So we have 3 feats in to be or not to be. 3 feet. And this pattern, by the way, is called iambic. And it gets very technical. This whole study is what we call meter. You know, like a water meter measures your water flow, electric meter. Well, meter in poetry measures the rhythm of syllables in a line. And there's professors who spend their whole career doing this stuff and trying to figure out what it means and how it affects the theme or the meaning or the feeling of the poem. Well, in line 6, we have an interesting pattern. Right, smack, dab. Each one of those is accented. And so you have 3 accented syllables in a row. Let me make this slightly bigger. And that's called spondee or spondaic. You can see on the left side I've got an arrow pointing down. You know, if you look at line 7, maple, dappled, summer, sunlight, there you have your first syllable accented and your second syllable unaccented. And they've got names for all of this stuff, but you don't need to remember all that. That's kind of getting into the weeds. But I just wanted to point out all of that's part of the music of poetry. So what does all that add up to? Well, I made my own suggestion to the right side, another annotation. Music of lines suggest carefree innocence. Let's read those lines together, let's go back to line 1. My girl and I amble a country lane, moo cows chomping daisies, our own sweet saliva green with grass stems. Look, she says at the crossing, the choo-choo's light is on, and sure enough, right smack dab in the middle of maple dappled summer sunlight is the lit headlight. So funny. Now, only you can decide whether it works for you or not, this so-called music. And not all poetry has all that stuff, okay? And even in this poem, only some of the lines have that stuff. Okay, let's get back to what we're talking about, the theme of this poem, if we can find it. So we get to line 8, and everything's wonderful. The choo-choo, the moo cows, the grass stems, the maple dappled summer sunlight. Isn't that wonderful, thinking about the sunlight coming through the leaves of the tree, summertime, green, the beautiful patterns of sunlight on the country lane, on the grass, whatever. Yeah, it's nice. I'd like to be there now, as I said previously. But then suddenly in line 9, we got a different kind of thing come in. We have an arm waving to us from the black window. Is there something symbolic about that black window on the train? You can see my note, hint of trouble, question mark, you know? And is the arm waving to them, suggesting, yeah, you're coming my way to the black window? Maybe. But the couple pays no heed. It says in line 10, we wave gaily, happily, gaily to the arm. And then we have this little dialogue between the speaker and his girlfriend. When I hear trains at night, I dream of being president. I say dreamily. And me first lady, she says loyally. So look at the sounds there, dreamily, loyally. First lady, all the repetition of vowel sounds. And we could analyze the meter, the pattern of accented and unaccented syllables, if we were in that kind of a class. And I've been in that kind of a class, and it can get pretty dry. So we won't do that here. In any case, you can see their dreams. They're thinking of the future. Yeah, I'm going to be president, you know. On the back in the day when you were, I guess, a 12, 13-year-old, yeah, you could have those innocent, wonderful dreams. These days, I don't think kids have those kind of dreams. They're too cynical. They're too corrupted by that troubling reality that surrounds all of us. Maybe. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm totally wrong. And of course, these days, maybe the girl would be wanting to dream of being president, and the guy would be first man, so to speak. But anyway, back to this poem, and this time. So they're watching the train, and of course, the boxcars, you all know what boxcars are. And you know, a lot of these trains, these freight trains that travel around the country, they give names to the boxcars, you know, like Spirit of St. Louis, whatever. I can't think of any other names right now, but they do. So it says, so when the last boxcar is named after wonderful, faraway places, and the caboose chuckle by. You notice it doesn't say go by. It uses the word chuckle by. You know, chuckle is to laugh in a certain way. Again, that optimistic, happy, carefree attitude that we saw in line 1 is still in their minds because the cars are chuckling by. And what are they doing? They're looking eagerly to the road ahead. And you can see my note there. It's the actual road, yeah, but maybe it's the future. And they are feeling optimistic about being president and first lady. Everything's wonderful. Everything's coming up roses. I don't know if you guys know that song. I'm not going to sing it tonight. And there, poised and growling, are 50 Hell's Angels. Uh-oh. Do you all know what the Hell's Angels are? Again, you should, if you don't know, you should look them up. You know, it's a motorcycle gang. Back in the 50s and 60s, they were the most fearsome motorcycle gang. Into drugs, prostitution, murder, whatever. They were bad, a bad bunch. And yet they figured a lot in the hippie period of the 60s. They were involved in a very controversial concert in California when they were hired as security, believe it or not. And some really bad stuff happened. But you can go look that up on Wikipedia if you like. But these days, they're mostly balding, kind of overweight, who get out in their fancy choppers on a Sunday and pretend they're still young again, you know? Kind of like, well, I wasn't a Hell's Angels, but of my age. I imagine there's some pretty fearsome Hell's Angels out there, younger ones today, but generally they're past due. But back then, they struck fear into people's hearts. And there weren't just a couple of Hell's Angels got for a drive on their choppers. There was a whole heck of a lot of them. Okay. And kind of overkill, 50. Are you kidding me? And they're poised and growling. So maybe the road ahead and that arm waving from the black window, maybe all is not cookies and cream in the future, that bad things can happen. So then we have that reference to the title again. Uh-oh. So I think you can kind of figure out the theme here on your own. By the way, my sister dated a Hell's Angel, an actual Hell's Angel. And he used to come on his chopper down our street. And of course, it's pretty loud. And she'd get on the back of that and they'd drive away. Give my dad practically a heart attack. And the neighbors are all looking out the windows, kind of peeking around the window shades and blinds, going, OMG. Yeah. I could tell you some stories about my sister and her boyfriend back then, but I won't. We're going to keep it clean today, in any case. Okay, so there's the poem, Uh-oh. And there could be a question on that coming up. So I'm going to close this video, and I hope to do a few more. So I hope you all enjoyed this poem. I like it a lot. It's kind of fun. Poetry should be fun. It doesn't have to be drudgery all the time. So anyway, let me close this out. Let me find out how to turn this thing off. Okay, I'm looking for it. I think I found it. I'm hitting the stop button. Catch you later, guys.